Admit now. 1, 2, 3, admit.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks very much for joining us. We're just going to wait a few minutes now till we get a few people, more people logged on there. So we're just going to give it a few minutes there. You're all very welcome. I would hope all is good. If you want to just pop in the chat box. Oh, unmute. Maybe it was muted there. So do you want to do, yeah, Tim, we're going to keep your cameras off just for the sake of reception and stuff like that. And if you keep the mute as well. So we'll just wait for a few people to join in and we'll get kicked off there. And I was saying, if you want to put, I don't know whether I can keep getting muted there, do I? So I'm just waiting for a few more to come in. There's 16 joined. You're all very you're all very welcome to this evening or this afternoon, should I say. And as I say, we're just waiting for, I'm sure, just if you have the chat box there, just drop in maybe a word where you're from. And yeah, if you're doing anything with the garden at the moment there. I just can't see the chat at the moment, but we can have a look. So we're just waiting for it.
But you don't want you've got till it's gone. The peace and lights, seem to go that you don't want you've got till it's gone. The peace and lights, of your pocket. Time to find where to leave these two now. Spots on islands, early to down. Seem to go that you don't know what you've got till it's gone. Eat last night, there's a screen door slam. Big yellow taxi, to put my old name. Seem to go, but you don't know what you've got to risk. The police and lies, look at pocket. Seem to go, that you don't know what you've got to risk. The police paradise, look at pocket. The queen paradise, look at pocket.
Jody Mitchell, they take Paradise and put up Parking Lot. It's a song I do listen to quite a bit. It's one of them old greats, and the Counting Crows actually covered as well. It's absolutely fantastic. I suppose the song is very much in tune with no chemicals and give me the get rid of your chemicals and leave me the spots and the apples and the birds and the bees, which we, our company, that's what we're all about. So look at thanks very much for joining us. We're going to kick off now because it is 5 past there. And look at the people joining in after. Brilliant. And you're very welcome from all around the country. I see people there. I did see one chat there. I'm a terrible gardener. No, you're not a terrible gardener. There's no such thing. Once you're out trying, planting a plant, you're a gardener. So don't be worrying about being terrible or anything. It's all about learning and doing the best you can. That's what it's all about. So look at for you, some of you that don't know me, I'm Ollie Greene. Look, I'm based here in the Mullingar, and we have a company, Better Plan. What we do is I started a business probably 8 years ago, officially, and I was doing it part-time. So I'm based in Mullingar, and we set up a seaweed company. How it was true, basically, I was gardening, growing our own vegetables with the family and stuff like that, but I could never find, even though I was making my own compost, I still wasn't able to find a proper organic fertilizer, soil conditioner. I was big in, I'd done a lot of research back in the day about foliar feeding and stuff like that, and I could never find something that was natural enough that I wanted. So when I love surfing, and I go down up to Donegal, Sligo, down to Clear, surfing quite a bit, and I used to start gathering up my own seaweed on the beach, which is it's fine, but and I used to bring home the barrels, make my own liquid. And long story short, on another trip then up to Donegal, I met a guy that was opening up a seaweed factory in Donegal, which was a cold processed liquid seaweed full of biostimulants. So, and that's how they bid it. So basically, it's the product of two hobbies, both I love very much, because look at gardening is all about, for me, I'm more of a vegetable gardener than flowers. That's my forte. I just like, if you can eat it. I do have in the last few years, I'm getting into more growing roses, and the reason for that is because we have a lot of product out there at the moment for roses and stuff like that. So we're just going to look at today. What we're going to do is just go down through. We're going to keep it for about maybe 40, 45 minutes, maybe. We might do a quick Q&A at the end. And I'm just going to cover the simple basics. And that's, I think, if we can get the little basics right, why, how, and, doing our best, right? So it is all just about doing the best. So I just don't look at, I don't have a few PowerPoint slides, because I think it just gives more of a visual, and it keeps me kind of on track. I don't want to have what they call it, death by PowerPoint on any of it at all. So I didn't want I don't know if you've ever done PowerPoint slides, but you can just once you start at it, you can just go overboard. So look at, again, thanks very much for joining. And if you're any of out there are existing customers, we really appreciate you. And thanks so much for your support. And now we'll get this rolling. Oh, yeah. So look at, I suppose, for me, growing my own veg, like why would you want to be growing your own veg, right? Obviously freshness, nutrition, nutrients. I was actually given a talk this morning down in Tullamore to a group of business people, and there was farmers in the room and stuff like that. And I was just telling them one story, and I think you should know it as well, because it is important, and it's something that's, I was on two organic farms during the week. And once you're organic, our products are all certified organic. So we get inspected a couple of times a year. So when I was down there, the young lady was coming, and she was taking the animal feed in bags to bring it off to be tested. Now, the whole thing, they want to check to make sure that all the paperwork aligns, that the animals aren't getting fed non-organic products. So I got talking to the lady that was doing the testing, and I said, what is actually a testing the meal for? Now, she had rolled oats, and she had other feed stuff all bagged up. She said, we tested for pesticides. And I said, that's like the rolled oats is just oat that was growing out, it's brought in, probably washed, and I said, you can actually you can find out whether that meal that's gone into the animal has pesticides on it. She said, yeah, the testing is that accurate. She said you could pick up a teaspoon of salt in a swimming pool. That's how accurate the testing they have at the moment. And I was blown away with it. And I was thinking, my God, you're testing the feed that's gone into animals for pesticides. Is there a test that the vegetables we're buying in the shop don't contain pesticides? Your non-organic porridge oats, is there a test? Are they tested for non-pesticides on them? So just like, but they will tell you that it's. I know I'm going off on a bit of a tangent now, but I think it's important, because it does come back to why you should grow your own. You know, and it is back down to a simple reason. You're becoming more into self-control. Of what you're eating. Because what you eat in the garden, it's like growing your tomatoes. Everyone loves. That's the big thing with gardening. The tomatoes, even the broccoli, carrots, chase different. The potatoes, they're not sprayed 5 times a day or 5 times a week with blight spray and stuff like that. So I just wanted to get that across, because that's me being my bonnet for the next while. So look at it does save money. Definitely more environmentally friendly growing vegetables than, lawns are lovely, but vegetables are nicer, and I think, if a lot of people, if you're growing, you should think of, if you can, if you don't have space and you have lots of lawn, just use your lawn space to grow stuff. Again, it's educational and therapeutic. Anyone suffering from any kind of, even any sort of anything to get you out and get your hands dirty, it does have that feel good factor. Yes, it's going to stress you out if things don't go well. That's part of life. But the whole thing is to roll with it. But definitely education and therapeutic, because even for me doing this call, I'm probably getting well, I'm getting as much out of the G guide, because it's only by teaching you learn a lot of times. So I'm going to go on to the next slide. So I suppose the next couple is just getting started on the different method. Now, some of you out there could be gardening for as long as I am, that I don't like to talk about anymore because it makes me feel old. So look at this I studied square foot gardening probably about 6 or 7 years ago, and I'm a certified square foot gardening instructor. And square foot gardening it's if you're starting out and you're not sure how to go, this is the way. It's simple, it's easy to get set up. There's less watering, there's no digging involved, there's less weeding. And basically, you see in this picture, that is literally a 4 foot by 4 foot bed. And the amount of stuff you can get into it is absolutely mind blowing. So you're breaking up in everything into grids. So in one of them grids now, I have a couple of these beds at the house, and I just find them brilliant because I know you can put in so many carrots, you can put any beetroot in, and it's easier for rotating and stuff like that. And it's a fascinating way. And I do, if like I know one of them was saying you're a terrible gardener there, but that's not true. So maybe it's just a time of tweaking things around and saying, um, where am I going to put the square bed? Yeah, normally south facing is always the best, but like a simple bit of, you know, you don't need a huge depth. If you have a 6x1 or 6x2 bit of timber, you can make up them beds. And even rather than using the trellis on it, you can easily use a bit of string or something like that. But that's a brilliant way to get going. And then I suppose, and the other big one is no dig. Everyone, the no dig is the big thing. A good friend of mine, Charles Dowling, well, he's been a friend now for the last maybe 2.5 years. And Charles is obviously the king of no dig. He goes around the world, and I've been over in his homemaker many of the time, and he's just a fascinating guy. No dig is another brilliant way. If you have an extra bit of space, and even a square foot garden technically is a no dig as well. And all you're doing with the no dig, you're going to have to import a bit of soil because it depends where you're living. I know where we live, it's called carrick, and carrick is Irish for rock. And we want to, so I don't have much topsoil. So if I dig the field down there, normally I hit gravel. So we've to import a lot of things. So with the no dig, then, a good way to get started, just a bit of cardboard. And if you can get some like mushroom compost or a bit of screen topsoil, you can be growing there nearly straight away. So that would take with all the confusion ever. I was meant to wish you all a happy St. Bridget's Day. I did note in front of me here, and we were trying to get things sorted. So happy St. Bridget's Day, and St. Bridget's Day is kind of technically, well, it is our first day of spring, so happy Spring Day as well. And I'm just looking up a bit on St. Bridget. St. Bridget was a busy lady. She was patron saint of, I was actually reading the other week, it was, I think she's for nearly everything. She's the patron saint of beer, fertility, so loads and loads of stuff. What else you got? Blacksmiths and fugitives. It's all the underdogs, I think, sometimes. So that's happy St. Bridget's Day. So it's sort of, St. Bridget's Day from here on in, it's a good time to start, things is warming up and it's time to start planting a few seeds. So a few jobs, we're starting, like a lot of you might be starting off seeds indoors. What do we do outside doors? At the moment, what I'm doing at the moment, right? I'm going around the garden, I'm doing a cleanup. So anything that doesn't need to be there, the likes of timber, old trays, wrappers, I know maybe they're all very tidy sometimes, our garden, even rocks and stones and stuff like that. I'm taking them all up because that's all habitat for slugs. And it's a big thing, especially with, if you have polythene lying on the ground or bits of, just bits of timber or anything, them all up, trim any grass around your beds, like trying to keep the grass down and around, get the trim out and trim it now, and even just take it up that you're leaving less habitat, because if you get it now, because sometimes the slug eggs can be knocking around, and if you clean it up and get them out of there now, when it comes to transplanting your plants or sowing your seeds, you'd probably be less likely to get attacked too badly with slugs and stuff like that. So I would go around and clean it. I would start again. We've been doing it last week, is adding compost to our beds. Again, if you're not making your own homemade compost, which we'll go into a little bit, then you could buy some mushroom compost and stuff like that. A bag of mushroom compost, or I think you can buy it in ton bags, or you can get a bit of screen stuff. But the mushroom compost is quite good. I would mix it in if you can get farmyard manure, stuff like that. But it likes with farmyard manure and some of the compost, just be wary that, especially with farmyard manure anyway, just be wary that it is at least a year old, if not more. The older the better, because if you put on a lot of green material on your beds too early, it actually is using up a lot of energy into soil to break that down. So that's why I do see people, and the jury that I've talked to a good few horticulturists about this, about getting your beds and throwing the fresh grass cuttings on it. And a few experts were saying that, it has a negative effect on the soil underneath, because the soil is actually working to break that down into an organic material, and it's actually under more pressure. So it's just my own opinion. I wouldn't put fresh cuttings on soil. I'd let it break down first. This is very important, washing the tunnels and greenhouses as well. The reason for that is basically, obviously, it's a job I have to do now in the next day or so. And obviously, our algae builds up on your tunnel, and you want to be, it's going to restrict light getting in. But definitely, if you have a tunnel or greenhouse, all them bars up along, they'll be harboring little bugs and pests and disease to be going in there to hibernate or whatever else. I've seen it in my first tunnel that's there, probably it's not been there for 15 or 16 years. And a few years went by and I didn't clean it. And I remember going out and I planted, it was 20 something broccoli plants. And within springtime, I put them on early spring. It was probably early March, and that I put them out, and they were after sowing them inside. I was that taking care of them. I planted them out. I went down one day, they just weren't thriving. And next thing, I looked under the leaf, every one of them were thriving green fly. The minute the heat came on, the green fly just came out of nowhere. And it took me a long while to get out of it. And then I was talking to a guy in the trade, and he says, "Oh, you need to be really washing down and getting in all them bars. And it takes just get a brush, bit of washing up, like, but that's all you need. Wash it round and give it a good cleaning, because and especially with little nooks and crevices, and especially if you have overwintering plants. Like I have a lot of purple sprouting broccoli and spinach in, so you really check them now for eggs and little green flies underneath the leaf. They're always underneath the leaves hiding. So, and normally with green fly and that, you will see the little droppings around, but they're still knocking around. So, and if there's any indoors or any leaves and stuff like that might be contaminated, the likes of them, just remove all them and get them into your compost heap. Again, cleaning trays. Again, these trays here, they're brilliant, but I often seen in the back crevice here, that's where I've again just mistakes, and I'm just telling you what happens here. Again, I started a load of seasoning it. They were coming up lovely in the bigger trays, and I was wondering why were they been eaten. And I had a barrier all around, and the little feckers were hiding in under here, the snails. So give them a good washing as well, because especially if you've used them last year, because you don't want any old contaminants that might be there, or bacteria that mightn't be needed in it, that's there. So, and again, even with beds at the moment, what I'm doing is my garden beds, I'm throwing the seaweed on it. We're doing pellets on it, and we're just covering them over then with a bit of cardboard or a little bit of plastic or something, just to keep the rain off them for now. Because, I think the reason why add nutrients to soil is so important, especially spring, because if you have nothing growing in your beds, say outdoors all winter, and the rain we're getting at the moment, a lot of the nutrients is actually leached out of soil, so it's washing the nutrients out. And if you're not putting back in proper nutrients, that's going to help the plants grow vegetables more efficiently and less stress. And that's the big thing. And that's we come across that all the time. People go, seeing discolored leaves and stuff like that, and they say, "What are you putting on your bed?" Well, I didn't put much on it. It's like ourselves. We need nutrition to do what we have to do, and so the same with the soil. And you need to be feeding the microbes, and you need to be feeding the worms and stuff like that. And it's a simple dig. If you have soil outside, it's so simple. Just dig a square, just dig it up, and just count how many worms is in a square foot, and it'll kind of get an idea. That's what we do sometimes on farm, just as a quick rule of how fertile the soil is, because worms are brilliant. When you have a healthy worms in your soil, they're aerated and they do a lot of work, the worms underneath, the earthworms, and they actually leave behind actually natural NPKs behind them as well. So if you can encourage more of that, brilliant. So seeds sowing, I suppose, look at, I'm sure some of you have started seeds, let it be flower, vegetables, or whatever. There is no real panic. Like the growing season is long, towards the end of the month, we'll go into, I have a few dates put down when to start and what to start in the next little while. Again, there's a lot of people with flowers starting and stuff like that. That's fine. I always sieve everything. So I would sieve and I'd sieve everything just to take out any hard lumps and stuff like that. And the key is, well, knowing the depth of the soil. It's normally like the smaller the seed, the less cover. That's normally a rule of thumb. The bigger the seed, the bigger cover. That's what you need. So basically, if with smaller seeds, you can use, sprinkle them on the top, and some people use vermiculite and stuff like that to cover them over, which is fine. And so thinly, but the thing with, especially these little, that picture at the top, like even with some of them trays, it's probably no harm even to start off, depending on the seed, you could put 2 into each cell just for germination process, and then prick them out after. Like on the bottom picture is what I use quite a bit, is which are these seed trays here. And there's smaller ones you can get as well, but it's just, the more seeds obviously you put on, the more germination you get, and you can pick out the healthier plants and stuff like that and move them on. Now that'd be just for starting the seeds, and then you'd move. So again, back to what plant. Like in our house here, like I've 2 women in the house, the wife and the daughter, and I'm told all the, like, we eat broccoli, cauliflower, spinach, potatoes, peas. They don't eat the green beans. I love growing green beans, so I grow them for myself. They don't eat courgettes. I love courgettes. They don't eat aubergines. I love aubergines. So try and see what is being eaten in your house and start growing in that direction. I tell you a quick story. I remember years ago, and my daughter come home from school, national school, one time, and we were growing lovely broccoli, and she decided, and it was one day, that she didn't want broccoli anymore because someone in the class said they don't like broccoli, and she was big into Dora the Explorer at the time, and I'd ignored the conversation with her anyways, and I just said to her, I said to my wife, I said, "Oh God, I was seeing a documentary on Dora the Explorer today, and when she's going exploring, she says that she eats broccoli all the time, and honest to God, she just picked up the thing of broccoli and just chewed it. Until this day, she'll eat just a whole dinner of broccoli. Like broccoli, she's not big into potatoes, but she'll eat the broccoli. So there's ways of getting around it too. So I suppose now you've your seeds planted in and spotting the problems, right? It's especially if you plant seeds too early, there's a couple of little things, and we all don't want leggy plants. Leggy plants is where they're not getting enough light in a lot of cases. And so, if you have them on a windowsill, that could be fine. And what you'd have to be doing is rotating your, as the seeds are coming up, rotate them fairly regular, because obviously the seeds want to go, the new plants want to head toward the lights. So the whole thing is spotting this. Now, if you get it in time, so if you're growing in these, or like I sowed some actually in the smart gardens there, and they were actually getting a bit, oh no, sorry, they were in these ones, and they were getting a bit leggy indoors here for me. So what I done was I brought them out last weekend, and I transplanted them deep into these ones. And so they're all broccoli plants. So if you have and they're getting leggy, just transplant them straight away and put them somewhere a little bit more controlled. And sometimes it can be just a case of um too much heat, too soon and stuff like that, driving them on. And you'll see that even when you transplant plants out, we often have the term bolting in plants where, they get too much growth too early. Broccoli plant and cauliflower, you see it in quite irregular, where you plant them out and next thing you get this start of really, really warm weather. The next thing the plant grows too much and it tries to grow a little small and it's called bolting and it's like there's not much you can do about just whatever fruit you get off it, cut it and use it. Yellow and the coloured leaves, especially when you get to transplant the plant into the ground. This is another thing to be watching out for because if you look at the leaf, they'll normally tell what's going on. Like if you don't have real luscious green foliage on, obviously, vegetable plants early, the chances are there's some sort of deficiency either in the soil or in the plants. So just watch that. And then the other side is wilting leaves is another thing. That can be a lack of water or overwatering. There is a term in gardening as well. It's killing by kindness. I've done it in the past where I just watered, water, water, water. Next thing, why are my plants dying? Because the roots are rotting. And the same with potatoes and stuff like that. They can. And the thing as well, right now I feel I'm just throwing it all out there. So the thing as well, seeds that are seedlings are slow to germinate. So like you can have a pot of seeds and you say, God, they're never going to germinate. What's wrong? Again, it could be too deep. If you put in broccoli, a tiny little broccoli seed and you're putting it in an inch deep, that has to try and make its way up. Like you only want a couple of mil of about, I think it's about 2 times the size of the seed what you cover them with. So that can be a lot of it. And it can be a lot of time, it can be just heat. So the lack of, if it's too cold, they're not going to germinate. So that's just one thing to watch out for. It's just something to keep an eye on. But definitely leggy, just watching the leggy thing because you see so many pictures going up. But if you get it in time, just watch out for it. So now that we're moving into February, February, I suppose, is more daylight. You have the temperatures will start rising a little bit. We have, a tiny bit more. So what you can start planting now, sort of from 10th onwards, because you can start them here. Now I have certain things indoors, and these are all still you'd be starting these indoors anyways. So it's still too cold out for unless you have some sort of a heated propagator in your tunnel or something like that. Spring onions, lettuce, spinach, grease, that's your broccoli, cauliflower, or the broccoli and all that. Broad beans then towards the end of the month, I'll definitely be putting in broad beans. Garlic, you can actually still put in garlic, and garlic is super one. I tend to grow it every second year because what I find when I put in enough, I get 2 years out of the one once it is. Turnip is another one I'm putting in because turnip went very well for me last year. So they are kind of from the 10th onward. Again, start these indoors. If you have a conservatory or something like that, excellent. That's where you're looking at going. So then we're coming in. So from the 17th of March onwards, now I always have this thing in my head for growing seeds or growing my potatoes. If you can get them in now, last year I was busy and I didn't get my early potatoes in till way late. I think it was May. Well, I think it was mid-May I got my early potatoes in and they worked out perfectly. But first earlies, my father always used to, and still does, he's 86 or 87 now, and he still put in around St. Patrick's Day, he'll put in the early potatoes. So carrots is a good one to put in. The thing with carrots, and people, have this thing, carrot fly and stuff like that. It is a nuisance, there's no doubt about it. And parsnips underneath. I wouldn't grow carrots and parsnips in the same bed together. Kind of keep them separate because both of them will attract the same pests. The thing with carrots, obviously, they're best direct sown. Like you'll see them in the garden centre where they have them all in little pots. Yeah, you can transplant them and you'll get reasonable results out of them. I've done it that way, but I always find direct sown is best. You won't really want soil that is obviously real light soil that the carrots can go down, a bit sandy soil to grow quite well in it, peaty soil. Once there's no rocks and hard soil, so make sure, like even if you're doing a no dig, obviously you're not going to have, you'll probably have fairly fine soil in there. But like if you have a bed and you're after getting compost, just make sure that it's well worked up as well. And what I like, when the carrots start coming up, now this just works for me. It was actually my father that was telling me a couple of years ago. It's a pleasure. I do, it's great. I do drop him out the product every year for the garden, which is a great pleasure for me because he taught me a lot in the garden. So with the carrots, what I find is when they start coming up, they when they're up an inch or two of foliage, get this granular seaweed and sprinkle it along the rows of it. It does make a massive difference. I don't know whether it's the smell of the seaweed. And then when they're about maybe 6 inches tall of foliage, I spray them, I foliar feed them with liquid seaweed. And I find, that really, helps keep the parrot fly away. It, not 100%, but it doesn't decimate them, because even we're still digging carrots out of the garden at the moment. So with that, then again, like cover and thinning out as well. Like there is, I don't go mad into thinning them out too much, but if you grow, with carrots, it's putting in into plenty and then thinning out after. So then tomatoes, then toward the end of the month, again, there's loads of time for tomatoes. Tomatoes, chilies, pepper. Again, these are all going to be indoors. Now, if you start these, just make sure you have the space to grow them into a larger thing. So even if you're starting them in these trays again, you're going to have to take them out of this and repot them, but just make sure you have pots, but they're going to be sitting, and use a good compost for transplanting them out because they'll want to grow and there's only a certain amount of nutrients in the little pots. So again, I do add in a little bit of granular seaweed that Charles Dowling does in with his compost. Chili plants and pepper plants, it's a good time because the thing with getting them started a little bit earlier indoors and planting them out is because they are a slow burner. Like tomatoes that take up so much space and you'll be looking at them there for a second ever and you're going to say, these are up there, we're going to second ripen for me. And they do. So but the whole thing with tomatoes, like we'll be doing a whole range of videos over the summer on growing them and stuff like that. It's just watching them and just following instructions with them, but they're brilliant. So that's kind of what to be starting off now. I wouldn't be like if you say, so spring onions, lettuce, like I'll definitely put in spinach, my cauliflower, have broccoli in now, have I space in one of the tunnels for it. I will be getting in onions and broad beans towards the end of the month. I'm not that pushed on broad beans. So definitely the spinach and the broccoli is the big one for me anyways. And again, we'll be getting, another thing about carrots as well, I always say, rule of thumb with carrots, get them in early and put them in late. The reason why that is, again, if you put them in around now or a little bit, towards the end of the month, and these can be grown in containers. Like if you just get a flower pot and put a nice bit of soil into it, compost, mix it up again. I will come back to seaweed because I'm just in love with the stuff. Um, but mix it up just so they'll have nutrients in and put your carrot seeds in it and they'll grow into that perfectly. Once there's plenty of water and stuff like that in it. But the reason why I say sow them early and sow them late is because if you get them in early, you get the harvest early and you'll just get, you will get the harvest then before the carrot fly is taken over. So that's just the one thing with that. And then if you grow them late, the carrot fly has kind of done his job and he's gone. So you'll have a nice autumn crop then. This is a brilliant way. If you're into growing peas and stuff like that, and again you want to get them started because like I don't know any of the experience growing peas, but if you direct sow them, it's brilliant. But oftentimes they can be just, you go out and you're seeing this new growth coming up at the pea plant coming up. And next thing you go out the next morning and the slugs and snails just have them decimated. And young plants, the likes of little pea plants, for slugs, like that's ice cream or sweets. And they will just mill it out of it. So, and even, I don't have any problem with pigeons, but I know people that with allotments and that to find pigeons will come down and pick at the fresh leaves as well. So what I do is I grow them in these butters and basically I stagger them in. You can see the different rows and I'll keep them indoors until they get maybe 4 or 5 inches tall. And then I'll bring them out to the bed and I'll just basically take them out. When you make a trench in the bed and you just basically shake the plant out and they'll all come in a row perfect size, and you'll find you'll have more, more germination rate to be higher and stuff like that. So it is a brilliant way, and it will get more time to get your beds ready as well, because with weather, especially been early in the year and maybe beds outside, like I would grow the peas outdoors, and they're a cold weather crop anyway, so they do thrive a lot better in Ireland and stuff like that. So, and the thing with peas as well, the are when you're finished with the pea plant as well. So the pea plant has to be staked up and stuff like that. So it's important to get that ready as well. And a big thing which, a couple of years ago, I again started off a load of French runner beans, that's what it was. And had them indoors, had them germinate them outside, moved them out to one of the glass houses. They were just beautiful. I gave some to my father, gave some to my friends, and I planted mine out. And I was away for the weekend, and it was April and around that we got this 2 days of real hard frost, and bang, killed them all. So devastated. So watch out for the late frost, the frost date. It can be with April to so just keep fleece, you know what I mean? That's all. It just keep, buy some fleece that you can just have at hand, that if you're planting plants out, that you have stuff ready. That if there's going to be, the weatherman says it's going to be, -1 or 0 degrees or -3 tonight, get out and covered as soon as possible. And that can be something like even a bit of straw or something like that. Will anything that's going to keep them. And wind protection, it's very important as well. I know in our garden we have the northerly, the prevailing wind comes right up at the garden, and it does affect peas and beans and stuff like that. So again, it's no harm to put, to have protection against that, especially when plants are young. So I want to talk to you about feeding plants. So I'm like I've said, like years ago, I've done a lot of research on foliar feeding and why we should foliar feed plants. I have a little knapsack down there, and once a week I spray everything, summer and winter. And down there every weekend, the sprouting broccoli, of carrot still coming up in the tunnel. There's beet, spinach, and all that down there, and everything gets sprayed with it. Because a plant will actually absorb nutrients faster through the leaf than up through the root system. So it's a brilliant way of getting nutrients into the plant faster. And especially if you have that plant, because when you spray on, especially this liquid seaweed, it does increase photosynthesis in the plant. So what that does, it actually acts then, it helps with the whole drawdown process. So basically what plants do, they draw down carbon out of the atmosphere into the leaf, and it brings it down and distributes it around the root system, which then feeds the microbes. So little bits of the root hairs fall off, and that feeds the microbes that feed the soil. And that's just nature. So what we want to do is increase that. So foliar feeding is brilliant for doing that. What it is, I suppose, and I do be always, even like we deal with a lot of farmers as well, and I always explain to them, we're all talking about NPKs, right? Nitrogen, potassium, and we're always talking about organic matter and stuff like that in plants or for the soil and stuff like that. But one thing we don't talk about is a lot is carbohydrates. And like us humans, like everything is a living organism, and living organisms need energy. Living organisms need energy to just to grow. So like if you think of it, if you have a week of not maybe eating healthy, or not drinking enough water and stuff like that, you're going to feel a lot more sluggish, or you're eating the wrong stuff, you're going to feel sluggish. But if you're getting the proper, good carbohydrates into you, which may be from a vegetable source or good, sourdough bread, you're going to have more energy. And that's what the carbohydrate in the seaweed does for the plant. It gives it energy. So when the plant needs it, so if a plant is coming under stress, it has the energy in the root system and the soil around it to withstand that stress. And that's the simple. So it can be used as a foliar and a root drench as well. And both, basically what you're doing there is you're feeding from the top down and the bottom up. So it's really well. And I do it with my tomatoes every year. I foliar feed them the minute I see a little, and a lot of time with the foliar feeding as well. Once you see a little a head coming on anything, once my peas started, I'll foliar feed them once a week. I just grab a knapsack, everything, just a light mist on them, mostly evening. And the best time to foliar feed is morning or last thing at night, because especially during say warmer climates because you don't want to foliar feed the leaves in real hot sun. And this goes to as well if you have perennial plants and stuff like that, rose bushes, whatever, box hedging, any hedging, foliar feeding will give them a good boost on. So potting mixtures and stuff like that. I think the whole thing with getting your mixture, if you go into garden centers and all that, and there's all these seed mixtures and stuff like that, and it's all branded really well, and you think, God, look at a lot of time any compost will do. Honestly, you know what I mean? Even like I'm not fussy about it. I'll pick up a bag here and there and I'll mix it. And if you find like you just take it up, and if especially for starting seeds, if it's real heavy in that, add in a bit of vermiculite or perlite or something like that. It will just loosen it up because if it's you want it free draining, because the worst thing for seeds is if you put it in and they get waterlogged and you next thing you're saying, where the my seed coming up, it happened to me loads of time. So just loosen up the soil and look at you can make up your own as well. Now if you have a compost, keep at home, but make sure that it's very, very well matured. Definitely a year. I use actually one out of I'm using two actually a minute at the minute. I save it in with the compost mix. It's one from our bokashi bin, and I use a bit of worm castings as well from an old wormery I have there as well. So you can use that as well. But like again, you just need to use it sparingly along what you're using because and it just look at it. Don't I think what it is. Don't overcomplicate the whole thing. You know what I mean? Because I think you can get caught up in reading, nearly reading too much into it. It's like when I was over at Charles Downing, we are just talking about planning the garden for the year and what, you know, there was a lady there and she was saying, oh God, I'm going to plant X, Y, and Z, and these are my months. And Charles was asking me, do I plan? I said, don't. I don't. I just, because look at, you can plan with the best intentions. You can say, well, I'm going to grow all broccoli and then I'm going to do that. That's fine, and plan out your garden. But like, you could plan to have all your, plans change. Your seeds may not germinate. Your, if you're hit by frost, green fly could decimate. So I think just, don't get, I suppose what I'm saying is sometimes we can get caught up too much and planning and worrying about it and this didn't work and that didn't work. It has to be fun and have to be enjoyable. And your garden, obviously, but that's only me. I'm just saying, look, if you can write down, some people love making a whole chart of what they're going to grow and where they're going to grow it, which is brilliant. But like I just said, just be always on the watch out for things that could go wrong, that you're going to lose a few plants here and there and stuff like that, because it always happens. So and then I suppose the big moisture is the big thing. Again, too much water, too little water, your seeds are not going to germinate. So it's just getting the right amount for that. And then most seeds, you want 15 degrees plus, and that's kind of the basics. So most houses, you're kind of floating around. I suppose most houses should be 18 degrees plus. Anyways, like my office here, I'm kind of north facing, but I have a thermometer on me. You might be able to see it over there, but you can see it over there. But I've a lot of plants propagating and stuff over there, and it's north facing, but it's normally in around 16, 17 degrees there, and in this is where. So that's with the potting mix. Oops. So indoor gardens. So look, it's a brilliant way to grow indoors. Look at you can grow your salads. There's loads of indoor plants you can do as far as microgreens is a brilliant way to get started as well. Again, you want a sunny south facing side for growing your lettuce and stuff indoors. Because microgreens are a brilliant thing. Like even if you're just thinking, God, especially for winter, even for now, because they do contain up to 20 times more nutrients than a fully grown plant. So if you haven't tried microgreens, I would recommend them. They're absolutely super. You can get all different varieties and stuff like that of them. And you don't need like you grow microgreens on a bit of tissue like they do grow up there. They're just so resilient. And we use hemp mats for growing them, which are brilliant. So again, if you're into eating salads, they're just an excellent thing to do. And again, I'd say just once it's south facing, you should be good, and the temperature is pretty good. And then look at again, we're back to the soil. Just keep it nutrient rich. So again, look at, you probably would have seen we have smart gardens as well. They're really brilliant for growing plants all year round. I've grown tomatoes all year round this year using these little smart gardens. They're absolutely brilliant. They come with a smart soil, they have the organic fertilizer in the plant up to 3 months. They're self-timed, self-watering. I planted plants, seeds in before Christmas, and we were off for 10 days away and back, and they were still perfect because they were all getting watered, they were all getting the light at the right time. And it obviously works as a propagator because last year, what I've done was these are the smart gardens there, and I do see it too well now because I can't see. So what I've done is I filled up these are the little baskets that go into it. So I filled that with ordinary compost, and I'm going to be planting aubergines in them tonight. And with the aubergine seeds, what I have is I have them soaking. I don't know whether you see them in that. I have the aubergine seeds soaking in that because they're a little bit bigger and it will improve. So what's in that mixture is a little bit of seaweed, liquid seaweed, and water. And I have that soaking since this morning. So I'm going to be planting them into these smart gardens just for, I think there's 12 seeds in that. So I'm going to just plant 10 sections of that. So I'm going to use that for germinating them. And then I'm going to pick them out and put them into bigger containers because aubergines, again, it's one of them things that's slow. So they're dual purpose. That's the thing about them. They can use for propagating, and the fact that they have these brilliant lights on them as well, that's not going to, it'll reduce the amount of leggy plants you're going to have as well. So composting, I'm pushing on for time here. My apologies, I hope not delaying you. Look at composting, it's something I'm so, it's anyone who's into gardening compost, because look at, even though we have this drive for, over since the last 5, 6 years, maybe more, like all to talk about brown bins, blue bins, green bins, you know, but yet we're still we're nearly the number one in Europe for waste. It's shocking. So, and a lot of this now, even the brown bins, they're saying, even the blue ones, they're all just going into landfill anyway. Well, not all, but a lot of it is going into landfill. So I suppose what I like to think is that we take back the control ourselves again and start doing our bit at home. So there's loads of different methods of composting, and maybe some of you do compost. And these are just kind of a system there when I was doing a composting course before. There's loads of different methods. Look at, you have your standard bins you can get, the cone shaped bins, which are brilliant. Now again, you won't be putting in any cooked food, raw food, bones and stuff like that because they're rodents. And if you've got one of these green bins, the biggest thing we hear with it, people for rodents, because they're an ideal place for rats to hang out because there's food in it, there's lovely warmth in it. What else would you want? But if you're setting one up, the simplest way to do it, get some wire mesh. Definitely the smaller, if you can get it about, I think it's about 10 mil by 10 mil mesh, you'll get the local hardware store. That down on the ground first, then put your bin on it. So that will stop the rodents coming up. Chicken wire won't work, they'll eat their way through it. Then you have the turning systems as well, and whether you'll see that too well, but basically that's your pallet. So that's kind of your hot composting where you're putting on your ground, your greens and all that. Again, leaf mulch, is probably just gone by now, but like I was bagging up leaf mulch there for them. Well, I was doing it and I would get given a hand. I was going to say, there's a guy that comes out, gives me a hand once a week, and he was doing it mostly. So Shane was lathering up the leaf mulch, I may to be honest about it. And we have them in bags, and then we have it in pallets as well. So leaf mulch is brilliant. It does take longer, but what it'll do is, if you're cutting grass and you add in the leaf mulch into it, it will compost a lot quicker. And then the grass cycling as well, that's the same thing, is just getting the grass cuttings and putting it in with your browns and greens and stuff like that. Any of that know me, I just love the bokashi bin. I think they are the best way of composting. If not, I just find it brilliant because you can put in meat, cooked food, raw foods, chicken bones, everything. I know probably vegetarians on the call, but for people who do eat chicken and stuff like that, white throat carcass when you can be composted, all your peelings and stuff, and it makes a liquid feed as well. Then you have your tumblers. I think someone put into the box there. The tumblers are great. Again, to take more work. I like the bokashi because I go away a lot. There's a lot of hobbies, and we do a lot of work, a business and stuff like that, and we're away most weeks doing shows and whatever. So The Bokashi works for me because it's simple. You just fill it, leave it. I don't want to be turning. I don't want to be worrying about that. The tumblers are brilliant. I've had them for years. I don't use that anymore for simple. Again, it's getting the mixture right. If you don't put in, like, if you have a tumbler and it's not working right, you're probably just putting in too much, high nitrogen products, So what you probably need is, if you can get some wood pellets and get the balance, even shredded paper, something like that, that will work far better. And turning it again, that it gets the cones much similar, and the turning. Wormeries, they're brilliant. I don't buy into the whole, like, for me personally, I don't do worm castings. I load the wormery. I have an old bat at home. I converted it into a wormery. I have another wormery outside. I'm not a big fan of the stockers, to be honest with you. That's just me personally. I have them and they work grand for me, but was never overly impressed with them. Thing with wormery, they do take a lot of, it takes a good while to get them going, but when you have it going, the work, any wormery works quite well. And then the work, they can be finicky, because worms, if it gets too wet, they leave. If they get too cold, they leave. And there's no food, they'll just disappear. So, you will be popping up the worms definitely once a year, anyways, just redoing that. And oftentimes, look, if you have a wormery and you're looking for worm, get actually a bit of plastic, or what I find, I just get a rubber mat and I'll put it down in the soil somewhere down in the garden, and I lift that up in a few days' time. You'll see all these worms underneath, and I'll pick them. I put them into the bucket, and I put them into one of my, normally into the bath or something like that. And you'll find, if you go around and you'll pick these, because that's all it is. Like, or if you just dig in your compost, like, you could spend hours there picking worms, which sometimes they do. So these are the Bokashi bins. Again, look at compost, 100% food waste. It makes a liquid feed. The liquid feed then can be used. Normally, you can use it as a foliar, you can use a root drench, and you would dilute it down. It's very, very important. It's very important. So, like, if you're using it as a root drench, like you're talking about, say 20, 40 mil would do nearly 10 liters of water. It's very good. I tell you what, it's actually really, and it doesn't have great shelf life on it. So if you're draining your Bokashi bin liquid, I would use it within 24, 48 hours. So I'd be putting it on something. And if you have nothing to put it on, what we do use it for, I pour it down the drain, was the microbes in the Bokashi waste liquid will actually clear out the pipes. It'll clear all the smudge out of it. And they're amazing. Like, it's just for stuff like that. So you can bury it. I have a little, you will see the video now. You probably, and he was just looking at, probably sick looking at the video now, Bokashi bin. But if they're just like, I can make compost within probably, even this time of year, 4 weeks, you're going from food waste into usable compost for the garden. And again, if you have a wormery, you can pop it into the wormery then, because the worms actually love it as well. So it is a super, super job. So we have a special offer on that at the minute. That's slide in there. So this is a simple one. I don't know whether this video will work, but this will just give you an idea. If you're thinking of setting up a wormery, this, I would advise this. It's so simple, it's so cheap, and basically all you do is get an old plastic tub of some description with a lid on it. I'll just play this video quickly. Oh, we haven't got it, maybe. Sorry now. And there's holes in the bottom of the bin. So basically, any of the leaching is going down into the soil on the bed, like, so you're getting the best of both worlds. You can actually see the worms underneath there as well. So the worms are coming and going out of the bin as well, which is a brilliant thing. So it's just a great way. I always recommend people look at it. If you can, if you want to set up a wormery and you didn't want to be investing in it, I would just place that in the bed. Probably you can do it indoor, outdoor. Probably a bit cold at the moment for outdoors, but you'll be fine. Oops. And then look at soil health is very important. Obviously, homemade compost, mushroom compost, farm manure. We were saying earlier on, get the farm manure, but make sure it's well seasoned. Organic pellets. The seaweed, actually, that's it, granular seaweed that contains more nutrients than any land-known plant. So it is an absolute super, super yolk. And we have that's a spring soil treatment plant. Again, why would you want to put it on? Because if your beds are outdoors and uncovered, a lot of nutrients would have been washed out of the soil. So if you don't have, even if you have a bit of homemade compost before, it's no harm just topping it up with the extra nutrients anyway, because again, they're very full of organic matter as well, which the worms love as well. So just back to the seaweed. Not all seaweed is the same, right? So if you go into a shop and you're buying a liquid seaweed and it's black in color, normally that is chemically extracted or heat extracted seaweed. With our one, it's liquid in color, liquid green in color, and you can see when it's done. And I'm just going to demonstrate how safe it is. So, like, it smells like seaweed, it looks like seaweed, so it must be seaweed. So this is what I normally do with the taster. Yeah, that's how safe our products are, because I believe if you're putting it on your plant, you want something that's safe, that's natural, and you're going to be consuming it. So, why put it in? So it doesn't taste that great, but that's the second time done that today, so I'm still alive, so I'm good. Yeah, so this is what it is, and it's all Irish. The liquid seaweed, it's processed, all hand cut and everything, and it's all renewable sort. The way it's done all very ethically and stuff like that. So again, all our products certified organic. Did a tomato feed, rose tonic, winter grown rose. It's very good for black spots. Our tomato feed is really formulated for the root system, and lasting in around the soup. Because the thing about tomatoes as well, it's like any flowering plant, they need feeding regularly. Even with roses, they would treat them now, because the whole thing, if you can get the root system looked after now, you're going to have better plants. Actually, better plants. They come bloom time, and you'll find you'll have far better bloom and you'll have better quality, longer blooms as well. Again, more products, healthy soil, healthy plant, healthy people. It's as simple as that. Like, we're all about, look, I suppose what I'm very passionate about is keeping the soil healthy, because you know with everything that's going on in the environment, or people are talking about this, that, and the other. But I honestly believe if we just look after the soil and stop putting on chemicals on it, chemical fertilizers, and build up the organic matter, the soil will hold it. But that's what we need. We need, soil and water is the two main things, because we don't have soil, healthy soil, we can't grow plants. So that's just my own. So look at, we have a couple of special offers on today. So look at, we have the soil and treatment plan. So basically this one here, the soil and plant one treatment pack, that contains nearly everything you're going to need. So it has your tomato feed, it has your liquid seaweed, it has the root booster, which is brilliant for transplanting. It has the unique pellets, and it has the bag of the 10 kg of seaweed as well. And that seaweed goes on about a handful per square meter. You can get a 10% discount on our website on that one using the code SPRING24. The catchy bins, 10% discount using the code 24 as well. That comes with 8 months supply of bran. And then them super indoor smart gardens as well. There's actually 20% off that using the code smart garden, and they will double up as a propagator. So you can use them all winter for growing your veg, and then when it's finished, and the smart soil that comes with them actually will last up to about 4 months of growing with them. So they're absolutely brilliant. Now, that offer there will be, oh yeah, and the first 10 orders as well is we're giving out some of the seed booster. This seed booster is really, like, we've done loads of trials on this, and we're giving out a free bottle of seed booster with the first 10 orders that come in for any of the product. This is brilliant because I spray it on the seeds when I put them in. I find it definitely improved germination rate and when the root development comes on. So you can spray the seeds directly with it, or what I like to do is I would spray the soil first, pop in my seeds and just cover them up and give it another light to spray. And I find germination rate is way higher. And when you'll see the difference in the root development when it comes up, and it just gives that extra, it's was more uniformed germination, because that's what we're looking for. I think we could be. So look at, thank you so much for joining me here today. And I'm going to see what 1 o'clock. And I was hoping to get it. It's thanks so much, look at guys, for joining. So let's have a look. I was just into the chat now. I've used, yeah, no, it's thanks, Margaret. Yeah. Yeah, so just one question. All right, so question just in there on the private message is, what is the best feed to use on roses now? Roses, I would recommend definitely going out with feeding it. Like I use the root booster on my own. I've got 6 or 7 rose plants down there. If you feed the roots now with a bit of root booster, and then when they're into the soil, sprinkle a bit of seaweed around the bottom of it, and then when the first leaf comes on, the new leaf, I would start feeding it then with a little bit of that liquid seaweed, just foliar feeding it. So I hope that helps there. And what else have we got there? So yeah, so what I want to do, if any of any question, maybe put in into the chat box there, and I'll try and get with that. Compost. Oh yeah, that's the raw food is good for making the compost as well. Yeah, October should they that the garlic should be it should be ready, but sometimes yeah, garlic October, like you can bring garlic anytime. There's no big set date. It's a good it's a good all year round thing. Yeah, in Richards it's grand enough. I don't use it. I know people that do use it, and they find it grand. It depends what you're using it for. If it's only, I think that they send it out in the ton bag, is it? But they say, look, I make up my own, and I maybe every second year I'll get a load of mushroom compost just to top up on stuff. So that's kind of what it is. But look, a lot of them out there is good enough. You know what I mean? But the whole thing is just you may just need to add some nutrients into it. That's it. So um, I get it. Mushroom compost. I get it in local. I'm here in Westmead, Mullingar, and the guy that brings it up from Athlone, a lorry load of it. I think I have him saved on my phone as Nick Mushroom or something like that. So or Nick Compost or something like that. But if you have any, mushroom place close by, that if you have a car and trailer that nearly let you fill it up for free, like so, I just pay for the carriage of it. That's kind of the run of it. And is there anything else there? Should we go? Doesn't the manure also need to be from animal? Yeah, well, I think a lot of time with the likes of farmyard manure and chicken manure and stuff like that, once it's gone through the whole once you start once you sorry so with chicken compost, even if it's non-organic or you have the horse manure or cow manure coming from a non-organic farm, once it goes through the whole process of composting, so once you have it mixed right and it's broken down, technically, it is, you know what I mean, an organic. But if you have enough heat built up in it, it will kill off any pathogens in it. So the chances are, if it's broken down properly, the worms are after going down through it, it's technically organic. And that's from the Organic Association, because I know a few people making chicken pellet, and they have an organic label on it, and it's not from an organic source, but because it goes down through the proper process of being mixed right and broken down right for a certain amount of period, it's actually an organic matter. So I suppose it's like the compost bins. So that's kind of, yeah. Still cutting down some perennial snowdrops. Yeah, that's a fair play to you. It's yeah, so we did record this, so you can we will send you out if you want. We can send you out a copy of it if you find it rich. Oh yeah, with young groups, youths, I would youth groups definitely, find out what they like. I would go with something like, yeah, definitely potatoes are brilliant, carrots, depending on the space you have. Again, look at a bit of veg, a bit of broccoli, something like that. I think it's very good. Green beans is a lovely way to grow as well, because you actually see it and it actually gives off lovely color as well. So I would look maybe your potatoes, carrots, and I would definitely do the green beans. I think they would just French runner bean and just bring the bamboos around where they climb up. And I think that would be a lovely one for sure. And do have a look at. And you should actually, if you're doing the youth group one, look, Google three sisters planting, yeah. And it's an old Indian way of growing. So they grew, I don't know, one year. So you get a sunflower, green beans. I can't think of the other one anyway. It's green. It's Three Sister Planting, and it's if you're doing with youth group, I think it would be a brilliant thing to do with it. It's absolutely it's a brilliant way. And the sunflower, each one is propping up the other. So definitely that I would look at that for it. Brilliant. Thanks so much for all your comments. So look at if you have any, what's the best way to keep slugs and snails away? You can try bear traps. We have a product there. It's called Slug and Natural Slug and Snail. It does deter them, but they're a resilient little creature. Look at, I find honestly, if you go out late at night with a flash lamp and just pick them out of the ground, and if you keep picking them, keep them picking them, you'll get rid of them. Anytime you see them, and just check. The biggest thing once it's habitat, and if you keep one thing with again, if you have a tunnel or a greenhouse, if you water early in the mornings, because it's then the soil, the top half of the soil then, or the top bit of the soil is actually dry by evening time. So then it's less accessible to the slugs can't, because slugs lovely corn squash, and yeah, that's the one. So yeah, the slugs won't travel on the dry ground as much. So that's the tip there. So I would try and keep the soil as dry at night. That's the one. So that's it. And keep stuff from tidy. So look, guys, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And if you have any questions, you can get me on the old email there, Ollie at betterplant.ie, and check out our usual pages of information. And look, thanks so much for all your support over the last. Without you guys as in customers, we wouldn't have a business. So this is why we like to give back. And so thank you so much, and we'll talk to you all soon.